This is episode 24 of the Wild World podcast. Today we get to interview our most requested guest, Mr. Truth is Scarier Than Fiction. In this episode we talk about a lot of different cryptids, as well as cryptid games, movies, songs, and other media. I hope you like cryptozoology, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, welcome to the Wild World podcast. Today we have the pleasure of interviewing a highly anticipated guest, one of our most requested to date, known for creating some of the best cryptid content on the internet. This individual possesses an encyclopedic knowledge of the subject. In fact, I and many other creators often turn to him for insight when planning videos or content on the topic. Mr. Truth is Scarier Than Fiction. How are you today?
Hi, I'm Truth, and I'm doing well today.
Awesome. I'm very happy that I finally get to talk to you properly.
Same here.
Yes, hello. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
So, basically, I want to start with the question that I want to ask everyone. What's your favorite animal? And if it's different, what's an animal that you most identify with?
My favorite animal has to be the rhino. I like it. It's got armor and got a nice horn. But the animal I most identify with has to be the monkey. Just spiritually, I feel like a monkey.
That's cool.
That's pretty similar to a human, like at that point.
Exactly. It's like a human, but smaller and more whimsical.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. I guess I should ask this early. How did you come up with the name Truth is Scarier Than Fiction?
So there's actually a book called Truth is Stranger Than Fiction, which I did not have as a kid. But I had Truth is Stranger Than Fiction 2 by, I believe, I'd have to find it again. Anyway, I had the second book and I absolutely loved it. Tons of interesting stories in there. So when I was creating my YouTube channel, I thought, well, I could kind of rip that name off and just change a word, make it a little scarier. And that's how I came up with it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I feel like truth is stranger than fiction is a common saying.
I think it's a Mark Twain quote, maybe.
Maybe. So yours is is good because it puts a play on that. It's not that the truth is strange, it's that it's
a
scary.
little twist.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least you didn't pick something stupid and generic like Wild World that like 1,000 other people chose.
That is the name of a song, and you try to look up the channel, and it's just the song.
I've been in a YouTube search recommendations battle with the Truth is Stranger Than Fiction channel for years, where you search Truth is Scarier Than Fiction, and Stranger Than Fiction comes up first, so...
Oh, no.
Have you ever talked to them about it?
No, I don't know if that's still the case. I'll check it right now. But, no, it looks like I'm top. But I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah.
We're not even the number one Wild World podcast. There's another Wild World podcast that has, like, an actual, PhD biologist in charge of it. And it's really embarrassing.
He doesn't get as many cool guests, though. That's the difference.
It's possible.
Okay, well, I mean, you're kind of known as the cryptid guy online. Do you remember how you first became interested in cryptozoology?
Yeah, my grandpa he's a big fan and a skeptic, I should say, of like all the weird stuff. Like he likes reading a bunch of UFO books, ancient alien type books. And he told me a lot of stories as a kid about stuff like the chupacabra, the, Yeti, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, all those kind of classic cryptids. And as a kid, I was like, okay, I want to search for these things. But I didn't know that cryptozoology was a thing at the time. So I was like, I want to go look out for Bigfoot when I was older, at like the age of 5. So I called it Scooby-Dooology in my head, because they always search for monsters. And then eventually, maybe a couple of years down the road, my uncle and his family got me a book called Tales of the Cryptids, which actually kind of contains information about way more cryptids than I was familiar with, and, put the word cryptozoology into my head so I could actually, connect them.
Yeah, I think I was sort of the same. I'd heard of like these monsters broadly, but never or the word cryptozoology I didn't hear until like I was a bit older.
Have you ever had a cryptid experience yourself, like something that you thought was strange and you decided like to look more into it?
I have not. I'm still looking though.
Okay. I actually did have a cryptid experience the other day that maybe I can get everyone's insight on.
All
Whoa.
right.
I
You're
was
talking to the right person.
I was outside trying to do a pull up because that's where our pull up bar is. Okay, and then I was walking around like on the deck, and I saw this dead bird that had flown into the house, and it was really sad, but it was pitch black. So I didn't want to look at it because I thought I would be too grossed out and stuff. So I just went away. But then as I turned back, I saw something move. I heard it move too. And it was this like flash of bright color with a really long tail. And it was big. Like it looked way bigger than a fox, even though that's probably what it was. But I saw it running away from me. And so I just was staring and I was waiting for it to come out of where it like ran into. And then I heard a continuation of that same sound to the left of me and I looked and it was a rabbit. So in my mind, I saw a cryptid that eats birds, is large, like bigger than a fox but red. But then when it's threatened, it turns into a rabbit. Do you got any insight on that for me?
Where was this roughly?
This is in like the mountain west of America.
That is a good question, and I don't know of anything that can shapeshift like that or anything that bright colored. But I do know there is in Minnesota at least one report of a giant rabbit. But that's all I got. It's the only
Well,
thing
what
I
I
can think of.
think it was the rabbit was unrelated, even though it felt like it was related. It was just the fox looked so big. Like either it was a coyote, which would be strange to have a coyote in my backyard alone, and it was like really brightly colored, or it was just a large fox, or I misinterpreted its size because I am a human.
That is true. Yeah, I don't know of any giant fox cryptids, honestly. Usually, when
Something.
fox and cryptids are related, it's like someone sees a fox that's hairless and they think, "Oh, that's a chupacabra," and they post it
Hmm.
online. And we have to say, "No, that's not a chupacabra." Sorry, but yeah, no,
Well,
not
I
a
know it
fox
came
cryptid.
back. I know it came back because the next morning the bird was totally destroyed. No meat left.
It was a hungry
Spooky.
cryptid.
Yeah.
Maybe it will make it to a strange cryptid iceberg in the future.
Oh, I hope so. Can you please? One person saw it one time.
I mean, that's quite a few cryptids, honestly. So you said it was bright. It's brightly colored. It wasn't glowing, right?
I wouldn't say it was glowing, but it was bright.
It was
Like you
very
could, it was like
okay.
a flash of color.
That's interesting. All right, I'll write that down.
Okay.
Put it
Ooh.
in the notes.
Great.
I think I might know the answer to this question, but do you have a favorite cryptid?
It changes a lot. It changes a lot.
Mm.
Right now, I would say the one been putting a lot of research into lately is various Bigfoot related cryptids because that's what a lot of my last video dealt with. So I would say the Almasty or the sort of Russian Bigfoot goes by a lot of different
Mm.
names, but that's the most common term that's reported across like Russia, the Caucasus, Kazakhstan, that kind of region.
Interesting. Any
But at
reason
other
why?
times, it's the deep star 4000 fish, bathysphere fish, thylacine, anything. It changes
Yeah,
month to month, basically.
I don't know. I was going to guess Mapinguari, but maybe that's your old favorite, or was that ever your favorite?
As a kid, that was in Tales of the Cryptid, that was one of my favorites, especially as a kid. There was a
Okay.
very beautiful illustration done by Rick Spears of it. And I thought, wow,
Mm.
it looks nothing like a sloth I knew of at the time, but I thought it would look very cool. My
Um,
associate
Sorry.
Bamias, that is his favorite cryptid. He's done a lot of research into them.
Do you prefer to think about cryptids that are like recently extinct animals that people aren't sure are gone, or animals that no one has ever seen, more of a long shot, could they be out there kind of thing?
I think both are pretty interesting. I
Hmm.
honestly don't have a favorite either way. I like both types of cryptids. Even, ones that didn't go extinct recently, but went extinct like a pretty long time ago, like
Mm-hmm.
ground sloths or even living mammoth reports. I know Wild World did a video on that. So either one of those, I think, are pretty interesting. But when it comes down to what cryptids I think are the most plausible, I'd say the majority are recently extinct animals with sort of
Mm-hmm.
things nobody's ever seen before. There are some I think are plausible, but not as many.
Well, I gotta ask, which ones do you think are plausible?
Of the nobody's ever seen this before variety,
Mm-hmm.
let me pull up my list here. But off the top of my head, the tailed slow loris. That's the cryptid that an expedition captured in India back in the late 1800s, where because lorises had a reputation as being very lethargic, very slow, they captured a possibly new type of loris, new species with a long tail like a monkey, but they just sort of put it in a box because they didn't anticipate it escaping.
Hmm.
So then turns out the next day, the lorises climbed out and escaped, and nobody ever saw them again. In addition to that, I think the bathysphere fish, which are a great example of cryptids someone saw once and never again, are another good candidate for cryptids that exist. If you don't know, those are 5 species of fish seen once off of the coast of Bermuda by the bathysphere expedition, which was basically like a really early submarine where they just had 2 guys climb into a really small rubber, or no, sorry, not rubber, metal ball, and
Yeah.
they attached him to a chain and threw him in the ocean. And they just had a little light to peer out into the darkness. And on that trip, they saw 5, possibly more, but it's usually described as 5 that they saw the best new species of fish, anywhere from giant dragonfish to anglerfish with 3 stars instead of 1. And in the close to 100-year sense, nobody's ever seen them again, as far as I know.
It sort of looks like an oarfish or something like that. It isn't?
No, I think oarfish had a similar depth, but the weird thing he described was the dragonfish had. Oh, are you talking about dragonfish in general or the giant
The
dragonfish?
bathysphere fish.
The giant dragonfish from the bathysphere fish does look like an oarfish. I
Hmm.
actually I actually had one in an aquarium as a kid, but it
So
was
you don't think it is? You think it's just something different?
I think it's an undiscovered species of giant dragonfish because
Huh.
they described a dragonfish, or sorry, the guys on the expedition said it was about 6 feet in length, and known dragonfish are like a third of that max. So it
Hmm.
seems to me like it was a completely new type of species, new type of dragonfish.
Well, but when I look at it compared to an oarfish, it looks the same to me, except for maybe the mouth.
The
That's the
head
other
looks different. Sorry.
yeah, the mouth was usually dragonsphere fish or dragonfish are described as having a. I believe it's either the giant dragonfish had an underbite and usual dragonfish don't, or the giant dragonfish had a closed bite and not an underbite, and normal dragonfish do. But it was also said to have bioluminescent lights running along the length of its body, which is
Mm.
interesting because that would kind of distinguish it from an oarfish.
Can a
Yeah.
dragonfish not just keep growing like other fish can?
Maybe, but I think it being that long is pretty far outside the realm of what we know, even
Mm-hmm.
with deep sea gigantism.
There's also a thing in cryptozoology. I don't know if you agree with this truth, but I know, like in maybe Richard Freeman's book, he writes about one type of cryptid is a known species that reaches like an
Yeah, the
extreme
eels
length.
that never stop growing.
Yeah.
They're sort of a recurring motif in cryptozoology. But I don't know. Maybe dragons or maybe dragonfish never stop growing. But I mean, that deep, we know a lot less about how life works down there.
We need to
Seems
do
like a
that experiment again. Just throw people into the ball and in the ocean.
I mean, if I was going on an expedition, that's what I'd do. Probably not in, a metal ball attached to a chain. Maybe something a little nicer.
Well, yeah. We could start a GoFundMe.
That's true.
Do you have any favorite cryptozoologists?
It depends on what I'm thinking of. For guys that are like, I like how this guy thinks when I'm reading about cryptozoology. Charles Paxton, Darren Naish, and Colin Groves. All three of those guys, I can read their papers, their books, and I agree with what they think, and I like their passion for the subject. I was also a huge fan of libraries as a kid. I checked out basically every cryptozoology book I could find. So guys like Michael Newton and George Eberhardt, who basically made absolutely giant, like 1,000-page books that are just going through every single cryptid they could find. I highly enjoyed reading them as well. And
Mm.
two other guys I'd like to shout out are John Warms and David Zhu, because they went to, I guess they live in pretty underdiscussed parts of the world when it comes to cryptozoology. John Warms was in Manitoba, Canada, and David Zhu was in China. And what they did is just did a whole bunch of research. John Warms talked to a bunch of people, and David Zhu read a bunch of different manuscripts. And they've made really great books about the cryptids of those regions. And
I think
before that, 90% of them were basically unknown before they kind of shone a light on them.
I think I remember you talking about. Was that the book you sent me with like the mammoth sightings in China? Was that an excerpt from that, from the
Yes,
David Zhu
that's
book?
David Zhu's Mystery Creatures of China. I believe that's the Kishu. Probably pronounced that
Hmm.
wrong, but yeah, very interesting
Cool.
stuff. And in David Zhu's case, since China's such an old society, he had cryptids from like BC. It went that far back, which I thought was really
Wow.
cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Let's see. My question that I want to ask next is, well, it's a two-part question. First, what cryptid would you most want to be real? Like, it could just be proven right now. Maybe you could prove it. What do you want it
Okay,
to be real?
two answers. Selfishly, I'd want Bigfoot to be real because that's like, I live in the United States. Bigfoot's like all across the United States. And if it turned out that Bigfoot was real and he lived within like a 1 hour radius of me, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
And then I'd say unselfishly, I would really like for, speaking of like recently extinct animals, I would really like for there in some cave to be living dodos. There have been a
Hmm.
few reports of dodos, and if somehow they came back, we've just found living dodos one day. I think that'd be really nice for them to come out of extinction.
Yeah, and then we'd go and eat them all.
I hope not.
Hopefully not.
Somebody would try it for sure.
I
So
haven't
yeah,
looked
that
into
would.
it. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say that would be my second question: is what extinct animal would you most want to bring back? Would your answer be the dodo?
The dodo would be up there. I would say maybe another one would be the thylacine. I know a lot of people are very passionate about the thylacine, and there's been thylacine reports in Tasmania, mainland Australia, and New Guinea and the Indonesian part of New Guinea. So those would be really cool as well.
Yeah, I agree.
I was just going to ask, I haven't looked too deep into it, but do you have any opinion on those? Have you ever seen those dodo photos that pop up online every now and then?
I
Oh,
think I've seen a couple of them. I would say they're not the best quality. I'm
yeah.
pretty sure if I'm thinking of the one you're thinking of, that kind of looked like a Photoshop to me, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I may or may not be working on a future video about that, so I'll take a look.
Cool. Yeah, I can't remember. It was some island. I want to say Mauritius, but I actually can't remember.
Well, that's where they're from.
Mauritius?
Mauritius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that makes sense then. Do you have? Well, I guess you mentioned a few cryptozoology books. Do you have any like favorite books in particular?
Strange creatures seldom seen. First and foremost, I have to shout that one out every time. I was recommended it by a friend of mine, Cryptid Robin, and it is absolutely bonkers because it basically talks about anything from fairly plausible stuff like giant birds, giant woodpeckers, really large beavers, uh, different types of lizards, to things like platypuses in Canada, in rural Canada lakes. Giant whales living in freshwater lakes in Manitoba, which is in the middle of Canada, not really close to the ocean. Rats,
Right.
kind of like muskrats, but vicious enough that they could take down elk. As in,
Holy
they were
moly.
seen in right next to I think a skeletal, recently deceased skeletal elk, and one person said that they had to fight one off as it jumped on his face. And then moose that live underwater are like mostly aquatic, kind
Mhm.
of like a beaver of some sort. So much crazy stuff in that book. I'd highly recommend it.
It sounds very fun, if nothing else, at
It
least.
is fun.
The rat thing just sounds like the rodents of unusual size from The Princess Bride, though.
Could be. I don't know. I think the sighting came after that movie came out, so it might be
Oh, not one of those again.
another was Loch Ness monster coming out right after some dinosaur movie premiered, something like that.
Yeah.
Besides books, do you have any favorite depictions of cryptids in media, such as songs or TV or movies?
This one might be controversial, but I watched Sasquatch Sunset over the summer, and I actually sort of liked that one. I wouldn't say it's an all-time great movie, but for those unfamiliar, it's a basically a nature documentary slash comedy about a family of Sasquatches in Washington or Oregon or California,
Hmm.
and they don't
Hmm.
talk to each other, so it's realistic. They kind of just grunt at each other, bang sticks, and it was really cool because they kind of did a lot with sort of man encroaching on Sasquatch's space, and Sasquatch in the 21st century where they're fewer in number, they're kind of going extinct, going through habitat loss related issues, and it was pretty cool. It was sort of a pretty cool angle for them to go through.
We should watch that and react to it because we're planning to do that with a few movies.
It is rated
Yeah.
R for a reason, I'll put it that way.
Oh,
So
okay.
just don't
Huh.
Maybe
live stream it on
not.
YouTube, you might get in trouble.
Well, we would obviously cut out the
Yeah.
we would just cut out
Heavily
clips.
edited.
Other than that, I do have Chris, I can't pronounce his last name, but I also found out that the guitarist from Nirvana, his band made a song called Sasquatch, and I actually kind of like that one.
Oh,
His
really?
newer band. I think it's Giants in the Trees is the band name, if I remember right. So that'd be another, yeah, Giants in the Trees. That'd be another song I'd recommend.
A good song that I found, or because of you, was when I think you were being interviewed and I asked you your opinion on Dogman, and you told me about that.
Oh
I
yeah,
can't remember who
Legend of
made it.
Dogman by Steve Cook. That's a good one.
That's a pretty good song.
Yeah,
And
another
did you
Midwest song.
say that was possibly the origin of the legend may have come from that song or after that
Yeah,
song?
because the story is so Steve Cook basically, I think it's for April Fools. He's like, okay, I'm gonna come up with this song about this Dogman thing, which is basically a werewolf, except it doesn't transform into a human. And he
Mm.
comes up with this lore. He's like, yeah, there was first sighted in the 1800s. Some lumberjacks saw it in 1920. And he makes the song and releases it on April Fools. And after that point, people began calling in with actual reports saying, yeah, I saw the Dogman. And that's where the Dogman name and legend came from, was his prank song.
That says a lot about cryptozoology, I guess. Or it's a very interesting thing to consider.
Yes, it is.
Could I ask maybe a bit of a follow up? I got a comment today asking me, did I know any good cryptid research shows, ones that were actually good? And I was trying to think of if there was any I would actually recommend. Do you think there's any good ones? Because I know a lot of them are kind of reality TV, kind of night vision in the woods, bit
I
sketchy.
mean, as far as I know, no cryptid TV shows have had results in actually discovering a new cryptid. There are some that sort of had new animal discoveries. But I'd say maybe Josh Gates' program and Monster Quest would be the two best for those. A bit inconsistent, and Josh Gates does a lot of non cryptid related mysteries, but he is out there in the field. He is looking for stuff and, traveling the world. So,
Yeah, that's true. Are you still working on a cryptids in video games video?
yes, I think I'm going to have to get a different computer to do that one because I got to capture some footage. I actually have been for kind of getting B-roll for my videos. I've been trying to download older games I remember as a kid, like Carnivores and Zoo Tycoon, because I figure I can just record footage of that because they had like Bigfoot and a couple other cryptids walking around in there, so I could be like, oh, record that, put it in a video. But yeah, I am working on a video related to that
The
in the
Sims
future.
is a good source of cryptids as well. If you
I
didn't know.
tried playing The Sims once at my dad's friend's house on his Xbox, and I couldn't do anything. I tried to be a criminal, but couldn't figure it out. Life of crime wasn't for me.
Well, I'm just saying that there's Bigfoot, there's fairies, there's mermaids, werewolves. I think the biggest thing is that there's Bigfoot. Like, you could
Yeah,
get footage of Bigfoot.
I'll check that out. I bought The Sims for myself on our family's computer, and then my sister tried it, and she played it like 10 times more than me, and then she eventually had me transfer over the account it was on to her, so now she plays it. So I'll see if I
Yeah.
can get that from her.
Well, the Bigfoot is in Sims 2, which is abandonware, so
Oh, sick. I
it's,
love abandonware.
yeah.
That's also how I got Zoo Tycoon, so.
Yeah. Because I can't think of many, like, specifically cryptid games. Like, I can think of games that have cryptids in them, kind of, but not many that are, like, about it.
Well, I'm thinking of things that are more about like extraterrestrial life or what life could be like if it was slightly tweaked. So there's like Spore and Subnautica,
Those are interesting ones. I like the.
but they're not cryptids, right? Like they're specifically not on Earth.
Yeah, it's more like specular evolution type stuff,
Yeah.
especially with Spore, because I think the whole point is that you evolve different creatures.
What about something like, isn't there a game where you can evolve animals? It's like Ark or something like that, and you're trying to get all the animals, and they're all real Earth animals.
I haven't played that. I think it's Ark Survival Evolved. I haven't played that one though. I'll have to put
Do you
that on the
evolve the
list too.
animals? I don't know.
Well, so it's called, yeah, Ark Survival Evolved. Now I have to wait for this game website to load. Oh my god.
I think you'd like Ark Mika because you can ride a plesiosaur.
Oh my gosh. That would be the dream, wouldn't it? This is a really long website. It's not telling me what I want, but it does have humans and like dinosaurs.
Gigantopithecus is in it, I think, and he's
I think
bipedal
I've
for
seen
some
a clip
reason.
of Gigantopithecus in it.
But what does it have to do with evolution? I thought the game was that you evolve the animals. Oh yeah, you form a tribe, tame and breed hundreds of species of dinosaurs and other primeval creatures. So since you're breeding them, do they eventually become the next step or
I don't know. I'd have to
I
play
don't
the
know.
game.
I don't know enough about it. There was another. I'll just mention one more thing and then we can move on. There was some other open world racing game. Maybe it was called The Crew or something. That it was supposed to be like the whole map of the US. And if you went to Washington, sometimes, if you were lucky, around like Olympic National Park, you could see Bigfoot.
Oh, that's cool. That's usually where you see cryptids in video games, is like little cameos
Yeah.
in the background, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any pet peeves about the field of cryptozoology?
No, I would say not really about the field as a whole. I'd say there's some misconceptions of it. Sometimes people don't know that, in essence, cryptozoology is about like animals. So they'll put stuff like Slenderman and listed as a cryptid, when really the whole point of cryptozoology is, you know, trying to find new animals and categorize them. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it's pretty cool.
Okay. That's
Sorry
good.
to bring this up back to the previous topic, but I found the game I was talking about. It's called Species.
I have not heard of that one. I'm gonna write it
And
down here.
it's you play with natural selection and you have to help them like evolve. I'm not sure how real world, like real life Earth it's based on. It might be evolving on a different planet. I'd have to read more about it. But
Wow,
it's like science based.
I just looked at that. Those are some weird looking animals in that game. I have to.
Yeah, But they were weird in the beginning, right?
Yeah, however many million years ago, they were little creatures.
Anyway, I'm sure there's a lot more that we aren't even thinking about.
We sort of talked about like cryptids that you think might be real. Are there any cryptids where you're like, I guess you can't never say certain, but pretty certain that they definitely aren't real?
At this point, I would say a lot of the big cryptids that people have searched for quite frequently are either not real or they're extinct by now. So stuff like the Mokele Mbembe, maybe like the Yeti, Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, where it's like we've had so many people go to these areas where they're reported, look for it, have all sorts of equipment, stuff like that, and they haven't found anything despite all this effort and all this money being put in there. So I think those ones probably aren't real. Additionally, some cryptids like giant squids, where there's allegedly squids like hundreds of feet long. I also don't think
Right.
those ones are real. Another interesting one is the kawuk, which is basically described as a bipedal monitor lizard. So about the size of a monitor lizard, but just walking on 2 feet. And that one is not very plausible because the island it's reported on is actually like really small. Like there's a couple thousand people on it, and it's just like tiny, and it's not a place where a giant lizard that's walking on its hind legs could be found. I
Well, I don't
also
know. Like, there are some cryptids that have been surviving unseen on small islands. Like, we went to one, Thomas, where there's a cat that's hard to see.
Yeah, but there were probably how many people living on that island? Like that island had one road that circled it, and then the rest was all jungle.
Is that not the case for the kawuk?
well, the
I don't know.
kawuk apparently eats people, so
Oh.
that might. I think if there was a giant lizard that ate people, we would probably found it by now, or the
Well, of
entire
course you wouldn't
population of
find
the
it.
island would have been eaten.
You wouldn't find it because every time someone sees it, they get eaten. That's the premise of my cryptid movie that I talked about. I don't know, that podcast hasn't come out yet, but
You gotta go in there with like all metal armor then. Just make yourself completely animal proof like those old divers.
it says it's a vicious corpse eater on Cryptid Wiki. So if it eats corpses, that's different than eating people because no one's going to notice when the corpse is gone, maybe, compared
Like the
to a
roping or
living
something.
human.
I said it's a bit like the roping. Sorry.
Yeah, because that one was said to dig up graveyards. But speaking of that part of the world, another fairly implausible cryptid category, I would say, are the true giants. These are basically Bigfoot type cryptids, which, as you may know, Bigfoot type cryptids are reported across the world: Australia, Asia, Africa, North America. But true giants are said to be anywhere from like 10 to 20 feet. So like 6 meters tall and even larger. So I think something that big is probably not out there hiding.
Yeah, probably not.
Well, usually in books, when there are giants, they're in like mountainous areas and they're clinging to the sides of the mountains and they're so big that you could think that they're just a rock. So how many people are really going out there to these mountains,
Didn't you know you were such a cryptid believer?
I'm just saying, if it's so hard to find not a mountain lion, a snow leopard, like it's obviously
Why don't
very
we find
easy
the
to hide in
20-foot
those big
giants
mountains.
strutting around?
That's true.
Because they expect us and they're waiting, they're hiding.
I've heard, I didn't listen to this episode, but I believe there was an encounter on Sasquatch Chronicles, another podcast, of a 50-foot or 15-meter tall Bigfoot in Alaska seen from an airplane. So that one,
Wow.
I think that one's a little, I don't know, maybe people mistook it for a mountain, and that's why it hasn't been found yet.
Is there even anything that is 50 feet? Well, besides like a blue whale, I guess.
Maybe
Yeah, I don't think
dinosaurs?
standing up. Well, there's the square cubed law, where something that big just basically would defy logic,
Right.
and even like really tall people have a bunch of problems, and really tall people are like a fifth of 50 feet, so max.
50 feet is insane. That's like climbing up to like kaiju size.
Because that's
pretty
2
exciting.
times
I really
the
want to
size
listen
of
to
the
that
largest
episode
dinosaur.
now. 50 is it? Wow.
Yeah, I looked up the size of the largest dinosaur they think existed, and it's like it gets up to 25 feet maybe. So I don't know. I'm just this is from. I haven't looked into it very much, obviously, but that's what the internet says.
But even smaller ones are a bit, because I remember a lot of different sources, but the show Search for Sasquatch, I think it was called, where they like go to a town and interview people. And like sometimes the people will be like an 18-foot Sasquatch and stuff.
I don't know. Most Bigfoot shows I've seen kind of boring when it comes to the Bigfoot. Like it's usually 6 to 10 foot range, brown or black or reddish in color, smells bad, might throw a couple rocks. But like some of the stuff I've read are insane. Like 50-foot tall Bigfoot, but it only has 2 toes. Bigfoot, but it's green. Bigfoot, but it's holding a glowing orb. Stuff like that, where it's really getting out there. Peg leg Bigfoot. That's another thing people saw. And I don't
Like
know,
it
I don't
actually
think,
had a wooden leg?
yeah, wooden leg. Jerry Coleman, Lauren Coleman's brother, wrote about that back in the. I think he sketched it too back in the 90s.
Yeah.
But maybe they discussed it on Finding Bigfoot somewhere. But I don't know. They're not interviewing the right people, is what I'm saying. You got to go way out into the sticks to find the 50-foot Bigfoot and the peg leg Bigfoot people.
I wish we could see a 50-foot Bigfoot. We should make like a little park with a 50-foot Bigfoot animatronics. That would be great.
Cryptid Park.
Yeah.
There
Like
was
imagine you are walking through most of the park is pretty easily accessible, and then you get to the end, like the back part of the park, and it's like you're walking through a forest, and then you come across the 50-foot Bigfoot. It'd be crazy.
I think one of the Disney Worlds had a giant Yeti animatronic, but it broke down because it was too big and it couldn't move. So it just kind of sits there during the ride.
Sounded like it was haunted by the spirit of angry Bigfoot.
Sounds like Disney needs to repair more of their rides. I think I heard it. Was that like Expedition Everest or something like that?
I think that's the name of it, Expedition Everest.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Why would that be in Disney? Because what Disney movie does it have to do with?
I thought Disney has like parts of the park where it's not Disney brand related, but it's like Animal Kingdom, I guess it's in, where it's like animal themed, but not directly themed to any specific Disney movie.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I'm sure there's one Yeti cameo in a Disney movie. They own it half.
Well, yeah. Isn't there
Monsters Inc? They bought Pixar, so Monsters Inc. He shows up a little bit.
Is the Bigfoot movie like Smallfoot? That's not Disney, is it? Is that like DreamWorks or something?
Smallfoot. Yeah, I don't think that one was Disney. Let's see.
I'm looking at a picture.
Smallfoot was Warner Brothers.
I'm looking at a picture of Expedition Everest now. It looks pretty fun. Like it looks like a real mountain with like little cool cliff dwellings, and it's a train ride, and there's a waterfall, and it looks like the Yeti's gonna grab you. I'm not sure where the Yeti is though. Probably right before you go over the bend, like right before.
Yeah, I think it was right at the end of the ride.
Just like the Jurassic Park ride, which is the scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life, when the dinosaur's about to eat you and then you fall down. I hate that ride.
You've been on that ride, Truth?
I've not been on that ride.
Oh my gosh, it's horrific. People enjoy it, like most people enjoy it, but I hate it. Because you're so scared because the dinosaur is like about to grab you and then you fall straight down.
Well, there's always that thought in your mind that, something's going to go wrong. Like, what if the Yeti suddenly came to life right at the end of the ride?
What
or,
if
it started chasing you?
And it actually grabbed you. Hey, if they had an animatronic that chased you throughout the ride, I'd be there day one.
That would be so good.
I'd sell everything. I'd say, all right, I want to get chased by the Yeti.
This is what it says for the ride. Wander into a Tibetan village at the base of Mount Everest and board a train to the top of the world, in quotes. Beware, some say a legendary snow monster lives deep in the mountain. Has anyone ever claimed that you can see Yeti at Mount Everest? Isn't it?
Yeah, that's where the footprints were. The ship prints were on Everest.
I didn't know if it was at different mountains specifically, but then you're going up the train. Without warning, a broken and twisted track appears in front of you, which is already scary enough. Then it's total darkness, and then you're inside the cavern, and you see the shadow of a massive growling beast. Oh my goodness. Race to escape before the Yeti claims another expedition. Warning, some parts may be scary for children. It features loud noises, fast drops, high speeds, dark places, and frightening creature effects.
I don't know. I saw a video of that as a kid, and I'm like, yeah, I want to ride that. That looks sick.
Sounds like it's not scary enough, because we need it to be chasing.
Yeah. Well, I guess it was broken down now, so it just kind of sits there.
That's a shame. I was just thinking, imagine some weird meeting where they're like, how much is it going to cost to fix this thing? No, that's too much. Maybe it would just be cheaper if we replace it with a real Yeti. So yeah, let's just grab a real one and put it in somehow.
Hey, that was my cryptid movie idea. Mine was similar, but it was like a group of scientists fails at cloning the mammoth. So instead they have to go to rural Siberia to find a real one.
That doesn't seem like it would be easier, but...
I mean, hey, I've been reading about cloned mammoths are right around the corner since I was a kid.
Same.
So it looks like they're having some struggles.
My goodness, they removed the Yeti permanently from the ride in 2023.
Wow.
Oh, no.
I wonder where it is now. I wonder if someone stole it.
I'll steal it.
Wow.
No one else is gonna.
Just do a live stream. It's just in the background. It's like, where'd you get that thing? Just ordered it.
They're going to replace it with something from Avatar. The shaman from the Navi River. Yeah. It's specifically not scary because the shaman is like a peaceful person that isn't trying to eat you. So.
Well, you're just replacing Everest with another Disney brand thing. That's kind of disappointing. I'll be writing a petition.
Apparently the Yeti had a strobe light effect, so it was called Disco Yeti. That's a pretty great decoration for a house. I really support you in stealing it.
Maybe it'll go up for auction, who knows? Or maybe
it's 2023, hasn't it already been?
Well, I assume it takes a while to, take it down, transport it. It's probably made up of a bunch of different pieces, so.
Yeah. I liked your movie idea, though.
Yeah, cloning animals is pretty popular right now. I know Forrest Galante is partnering with Colossal Biosciences. Yeah. And 5 years away, or 3 years away, till we get living thylacines again. That's what I've been reading.
Yeah, I've been reading that about, like you said, about mammoths since I was probably about 9 years old or something.
I was gonna make like a collage of images because I remember someone sending me stuff about the 80s where they're gonna clone mammoths within 10 years and not so far.
I feel unfortunately I'm too dumb. I don't have any expertise, but I feel like at some point maybe I'd almost put a bet on this that someone with a lot of knowledge is going to put out a YouTube essay that's going to expose like Colossus or something and be like, this isn't going anywhere.
What, you think it's like a scheme? Money laundering or Ponzi type scheme?
Well, I feel like they're just raising money by making outlandish claims. I'm pretty sure they have no intention of actually getting it done within 3 years, but they're probably just like, hey, we do this, we're going to get 100 headlines in the New York Post or whatever, and then some investor is going to get conned into it, and then maybe we can actually get the science done in 20 years with a more realistic timeline.
Maybe that's the most unrealistic part of Jurassic Park is that some scientists have an idea and they're able to make a fully fledged venture and then make it into a theme park within a very short amount of time and then capitalize on it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't read the book. I don't know about the lore, but I feel like they would have started a little smaller than dinosaurs. I feel like they could make a Jurassic World prequel where they're just making like dodo birds or some extinct dart frog or something.
But no one would want to go to that. That's what Attenborough would say. Richard Attenborough, right? No one wants to go to this park.
Nobody would die there. So maybe that's the better trade-off. It also would not be a very entertaining movie, I'd think.
Well, what if the dodo is smarter than we think it is, and it has this feeling of revenge because it's like, you killed me before, so now I'm gonna become more aggressive, and it starts killing everyone with its big sharp beak. Could happen.
That'd be cool. I mean, they talked about the passenger pigeon having, flocks so big they blot out the sky. Mm-hmm. Imagine we bring those back and they actually just swarm people like that Alfred Hitchcock movie, The Birds.
Yeah. So the first movie could be about dodos fighting back, and the second movie could be a parody of the
passenger
birds
pigeons.
with the passenger pigeons fighting back. Or maybe the whole movie could be like a parody of the birds mixed with a parody of Jurassic Park. And so all the birds, the past extinct birds, come together to defeat humans.
That'd
And
be
it could
cool.
be like on some island similar to the name of the island in Jurassic Park, but a little different.
What's it? Isla
Isla
Nublar?
Like
Nublar, I
Isla
think.
Nublar,
Nublar.
and then you could make it like Isla.
Well, there's 5 islands.
I don't know. But this is a good idea.
I don't know if they'd be able to market it that well.
Jurassic Park prequel, Revenge of the Birds.
I think Killer Dodo. There's probably a Killer Dodo horror movie somewhere already.
I could see it on like sci-fi or something like that.
Sci-fi.
This is going to be
like
a good movie. It's going to have an all-star cast. It's not going to be on sci-fi, okay? It's not going to be a direct-to-TV movie.
All right.
It's going to have Jeff Goldblum in it.
Him playing
No, it wouldn't,
himself.
because that would...
They could CGI him.
The thing is, he didn't know about this process until he got to Jurassic Park, so we couldn't have him in it because he's like
He could
confused
get
and
amnesia
shocked.
at the end.
Oh, this
What
is
if
good.
he's in it, but he plays a dodo?
That's enough.
Okay, that's good.
Not motion captured though, just like a costume.
He just
Yeah, what if we found out that you cloned like a mammoth or something, and it turns out mammoths could speak English, and that's why our ancestors killed them? It was too creepy.
He just kept
But
like
weren't our
whispering weird
ancestors-
things.
our ancestors couldn't even speak English, so
That's
They
that's
were
the
like,
freaky
"You're speaking
thing.
the
Like, how do
language
they
of
have
the
a future
future."
language?
It's like an ancient aliens thing, but it wasn't aliens. It was mammoths.
that's good. Yeah, that explains why people think that mammoths built the pyramids, because they also think that aliens built the pyramids. They're the same thing.
It could be. There's no direct evidence against it. That's all I'm going to say.
Do you believe that mammoths built the pyramids, by the way, as depicted in the blockbuster movie 10,000 BC?
No, I am not a fan of those types of movies. I'll put that.
Oh no!
No, but it's so good. It actually explains a lot, because they had to get the mammoths all the way from wherever the mammoths lived and transport them to Egypt. I guess it could have been elephants.
Just to build the pyramids.
Yeah, just to build the pyramids. But
I mean, I respect any movie that makes stuff about like saber-toothed tigers instead of dinosaurs. Like, I don't know, I always felt that like mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, that stuff's a little cooler. Just because our ancestors actually fought with them. Our ancestors were like little shrews when the dinosaurs were around. Little mammoth shrews burrowing around.
there's also the terror bird in that movie, which is really cool.
Yeah, terror birds are sick.
But I don't think humans interacted with the terror bird, did they?
I think they might have been. Actually, I don't know. I remember in Walking with Beasts, it was like before any humans, but maybe there were different terror birds that did live with humans. I'm not sure.
It says they were around during the late Pleistocene, so maybe.
Oh, maybe they were.
There are
I'm
some
sorry.
terror bird cryptids, so maybe they're still around.
Well, they basically are like a big dodo.
Yeah, a little beak.
Do you have any opinions on? I'm gonna butcher the name. Is it the bun something? The theropod dinosaur in Australia, the bunjipur? What?
Oh, the Burrinjor?
What?
Burrinjor. That's the one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is actually a strange theme running throughout cryptozoology. Every T-Rex cryptid is garbage. It's a hoax. Someone made it up. Unfortunately, that's the case. The Burrinjor can basically every report has either been traced to a non-existent person or Rex Gilroy. And if you've watched some of my videos, you'll know that Rex Gilroy really likes to make things up. He gets a kick out of it. He likes making giant fake T-Rex footprints. So he's not
faked
very
footprints?
credible. Yeah, he has some Burrinjor
Ooh.
footprints, if I remember right.
That's a shame. Yeah, that would be a cool cryptid. A T-Rex just roaming Australia.
Yeah, and the Kasai Rex of Central Africa, that one, not only is it not real, but it wasn't even a T-Rex. Someone hoaxed
Right.
a giant lizard photograph, and then someone later went back, copied the story of the photo, but replaced the giant lizard with a T-Rex instead. Like photoshopped in a T-Rex from some old movie.
Yeah, I think I've seen, but neither of those photos are done very well either.
No, they're quite old. Photoshop
Yeah.
wasn't the best back then.
So I'm looking more into Rex Gilroy. It looks like he passed away 2 years ago.
Yeah.
There's a subreddit, Cryptozoology, and they're talking about his work, like rest in peace, Rex
Did you
Gilroy.
just tell
And
truth is scarier than fiction that there's a subreddit on cryptozoology?
I'm pretty sure I
no,
made that post.
I'm not telling you. I'm telling the listeners.
audience.
Are you
Yeah.
reading one of his posts to him?
I don't think so. I'm about to read this comment, okay? Everyone just calm down. So this is the comment. It's really sad to see old cryptozoologists on their deathbed who died not even knowing the truth of their research. And then a reply to it says, actually, many well-known cryptozoologists are Freemasons and know the truth about the creatures they claim to be investigating. Some of these animals are real and they have proof, but they are gatekeepers. They're placed in those positions to collect and hide evidence while pretending they are trying to prove their innocence or existence. The mainstream media, which is also owned by Freemasons, almost never features anybody who is not a Mason also. One very famous cryptozoologist has a YouTube channel and he's flaunting the Masonic symbolism. So that's explaining why you think that Rex Gilroy faked it, but he actually knew the truth all along. Thoughts?
I mean, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Oh. All
Well,
right,
Rex
then.
Gilroy was definitely a disinformation agent placed there by the government in order to discredit the idea of giant T-Rexes in Australia. A similar guy, Tony Doc Shields of the United Kingdom, he was in the same boat. He faked the Owl Man and tried to summon the Loch Ness Monster with witches, which unfortunately didn't seem to work. But yeah, there's some interesting people in cryptozoology. I'll put it that way.
I guess we
I've
should
been
just-
accused of being, a disinformation and agent of the government before too.
You have?
Really?
Yeah. Usually the Dogman people. For some reason,
Those are your
one of my
enemies?
Reddit posts where I discuss how the Dogman phenomena can be traced back to that song. It's like the fourth thing that pops up when you search Dogman. So even years after, I still get comments of people telling me, "No, you don't know you don't know about Dogman." Okay, listen, you don't know about Dogman. You have to listen to 300 episodes of Dogman Chronicles before you can say Dogman isn't real.
That's
Right.
interesting that would be your enemies, because Thomas's enemies are the lion fanboys.
Lions?
Yeah, like people who love lions.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever followed. There's sort of very passionate fans who really like lions, some who really like tigers, and they sort of argue about who would win in a fight.
That's interesting. I know there are some zoology fans that can get a little heated.
Well, I think it's interesting. You can tell a lot about someone by who their enemies are, I think.
Really?
Yeah, lion.
Yeah, you can tell that I'm a tiger fanboy because lion fans don't like me, I guess.
Yeah.
It's interesting
And
that
I can
that's
tell
the
that you
one
hate
cryptid.
Dogman. Yeah. But I listened to Dogman Chronicles and it was pretty convincing, I guess, with the dog man running across the road. It was sort of scary.
I mean, the thing with Dogman that I think I shouldn't say attracts, where people are so passionate about it, is that a lot of it is like, yeah, this is a military experiment. Dogman is a military experiment that escaped the government, and that's why they're covering it up. So it's, when that's your line of thinking, you're going to get pretty passionate over someone telling you, no, Dogman isn't real.
I guess there are dogmen in the Hunger Games. It's a very post-apocalyptic notion to have a humanoid dog or a dog-like human sort of thing.
Yeah, because they have all that genetic engineering stuff, I think.
Yeah.
That was cool. That should have been all the Hunger Games. Instead of having like random natural disasters, just different weird animals.
That
I feel
was
like
pretty
that'd
good.
be a cooler thing to fight than a wildfire.
Well, they have the lots of genetically engineered animals in the books, and maybe they're just not as specifically mentioned. Well, they are actually in the movies as well.
I remember a couple in the movie at least.
There's like baboons that are genetically engineered to be extra evil and sharper teeth and stuff. Not that they need a lot of help.
Yeah, that I was gonna say.
It's sort of what you said about the government, it reminds me, if you make a cryptid video and you mention the Smithsonian, oh, you better not do that.
I was gonna
Smithsonian's
say,
always losing fossils. How dare you? Why are you trusting them so much?
Oh, like
I
people are
yeah.
anti-Smithsonian people?
Well, the unfortunate thing is, so a lot of people have rightly pointed out that the Smithsonian is hiding giant fossils thing. That comes from like a 2010 fake article that was satirical. But I
Like,
have found, and some of my associates have found, at least 4 references to cryptid evidence being sent to the Smithsonian and then later disappearing. So this
oh,
is
Hmm.
legit.
goes back to at least 1901.
Because I have heard that they got so many like fossils and specimens at some points, and they were just like throwing them into the archives and then just lost them.
Yeah, because my last video actually ties into this because I discussed a lot of cases of alleged lost evidence where someone gets a specimen of a new species, they send it to a museum, and that's the last we ever heard of it. But the problem is, museums typically have just a ton of stuff archived and not enough people to sort through it. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
maybe there is new species hanging around in a museum basement somewhere. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
more
Maybe
of a,
that's
actually, that happens a lot to discover new
yeah,
species in museums.
it's more of a, they just don't have enough people to sort through it than a conspiracy, in my opinion.
yeah. I think so too. I guess there's one question. So I know I would describe you as this, and many other YouTubers I know describe you as having like an encyclopedic knowledge on cryptozoology. And our listeners can probably tell by how fast you can pick up what cryptids we're trying to talk about here. How have you managed to like have so much knowledge, and how do you like do your research?
I mean, honestly, it's more of just having a lot of books and having a lot of
Mm.
stuff bookmarked, basically. I collected a lot of books. I do so with some of the Patreon money gifted to me. And then I just bookmark a lot of pages, a lot of different old magazines, old archived journals that are uploaded. And that way, if ever, something's slipping my mind, I can't remember something, I can just always go back and reread what's going on. Another thing I like to do is just kind of notice patterns. Like, for example, cryptid lost media. That's a topic I've covered a couple times. That
Hmm.
started with me doing a couple of basic videos on cryptids, and then I started to notice, like, hey, they said that there was a photo of this animal, but I can't find it. So I started to document. I wrote about that a little bit, and then I just continued writing about them every time I, encountered one during my reading, and that kind of put it in my brain and helped me remember. It's like
I have a
taking notes too.
question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Since
I
I
just
do YouTube, writing everything down helps. Just kind of like taking notes. It's basically putting it through your brain a second time. Your
I have a
question?
question about one of the videos that you made. It's about the audio recordings.
Yeah.
So
Great video.
there's the one about the Japanese wolf, and when I listened to it, like maybe I'm stupid and I don't know anything about wolves, but to me it sounded almost like an elk bugle at the end. So I was wondering if you had any idea of, or if it could possibly be like a strange deer sound.
Yeah, you're not actually the first person to point that out. I do remember getting multiple comments of people saying, hey, I think that sounds like some sort of elk call or elk bugle. And I don't know, I certainly think that's possible because I think I said it in the video, but audio is kind of the worst type of evidence, at least when it comes to most cryptids, for a reason, because there's just so many different variables to where the audio was recorded, what animals were around, how far away it was, where it's just really tough to tell what something is unless you get a very clear recording.
Yeah,
So yeah, I definitely think that's possible, if not even maybe probable in that case.
yeah. Those are some of the best cryptid photos I've ever seen, though. I mean, maybe it isn't. Maybe it is like just some kind of weird feral dog or something. But I remember when someone was first telling me, I think it was actually you, Mika, like, oh, there's photos of this cryptid, this wolf that's supposed to be extinct. I was like, okay, let's see these blurry photos. It's just
Mm-hmm.
this guy right beside this
Yeah, random dog.
K9.
He's giving it.
Yeah.
He said he like tried to give it a cookie or something, and it's like, oh,
Yeah, I think the pictures are very good as well. So it's interesting that the audio, well, maybe isn't as good.
because it was the same guy who had that audio in the photos.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting.
I feel like Japanese scientists or like wildlife hobbyists are so lonely because we also met this one guy who studies the Japanese giant salamander, and no one will fund him for it. He just goes out in his
Yeah.
free time, like he has a steady job, and then in the evenings he'll go out and capture them and try to do his research. But like he's getting no money or support for this. So I feel similarly about the guy who's trying to prove that the Japanese wolf is real, because
Well, he should. I read about this recently. There was a guy who basically did research under the guise of it being Loch Ness Monster research, just because it was easier to get funding for the Loch Ness Monster research. So,
What?
if there are any
Really?
biologists out there who, are saying, hey, I want to go to Kenya to study this, hit me up. I'll give you a list of cryptids, and then you can be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to look for the Nandi bear, guys. And then you can go off to study as long as you keep an eye out, just in case the Nandi bear walks by. You can go off to study whatever bug you're looking at.
Wow, I would have never thought. I would have thought you'd like put in an application like, what? That's not real. We're not funding that. Get out of here. But I guess it's in the current news cycle we live in, that's going to get a lot of clicks and headlines if someone's going
yeah.
searching for something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there was the largest Loch Ness Monster search ever a year ago, and I guess if you're in Scotland, that's probably constantly in the news.
I'm not sure if I asked this already and I forgot. If you've ever had a really interesting wildlife experience, doesn't have to be a cryptid, just like what is your most interesting wildlife experience, I guess?
I was in Boy Scouts for many. I'll have two stories. I was in Boy Scouts for many years, and one night I got up, and for some reason I got out of my tent, and I thought I saw a bear like 5 feet away from my tent. I ended up kind of wandering out of it because I was like half asleep, and then I got really cold and I almost got hypothermia. I'm not sure if the bear was real or if it was a hallucination to this day, but that was kind of weird. And the second one was I live in it's either on the border of where wolves are known to be or like outside of the wolf range in the United States. And one day I woke up out of my bed, I looked outside, and there was a wolf standing in my sandbox because I kind of lived out in the woods at the time, just standing in the sandbox
Cool.
looking at me. So I go back to bed. Turns out the neighbor had a Siberian husky, and that's what I was seeing.
Oh.
Because he was kind of like diagonal to our house, so that was pretty funny.
Pretty good stories, though.
Yeah.
Oh, one more. Okay. This one. So I said audio is the worst form of cryptid evidence. There's one kind of category I think is worse, which is like Bigfoot, like kind of fourth hand Bigfoot evidence. Basically, like broken trees, weird rock piles, just stuff like that, where someone's like, yeah, I think Bigfoot broke this tree in order to leave a message or something to the other Bigfoot. And the weirdest thing I've ever found in the wild was a square of bones that had been sorted and arranged in a square. Also, while I was in Boy Scouts. And I'm
That's kind
pretty
of
sure it was
creepy.
probably another person who did it, but it was very odd. It was kind of right by a field, right by a tree line.
Sounds like the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah,
Sounds
it
like
was just
a
strange.
creepy ritual or something.
Yeah. Thomas, you were going to ask a question before.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you have any big projects you're working on at the moment that people should look out for.
Right now I'm working on a Halloween video. I would say to give hints of like big projects, like stuff where I'm kind of just waiting around reading stuff in the background just to try and like find examples of this. Cryptids People 8. I think that's going to be fun where there's stories of people killing cryptids and then eating the body.
Like,
And then I'd say giant snake reports in North America. That's another cool one. I've been ordering some books on that because you hear giant snakes are super popular as a cryptid. Giant anacondas are reported all the time in South America. And then I think my second or third most popular video is on that giant snake photo in the Congo. But I
Yeah,
found
yeah.
that there are quite a lot of giant snake sightings in North America, almost in every state, parts of Canada. So that's going to be cool to
That's
cover.
that is cool. I've only really heard of them in South America. I hadn't really heard in the US. That'd be interesting.
I have a sort of similar question to go off of that. What's something that you know about cryptids that basically no one else knows? What's your niche knowledge?
He has a lot of niche knowledge.
Well, just
Well,
one thing.
let's see. Okay, this is something interesting I found. Actually, a friend of mine, Bamias, found this, or maybe he read about it. But the okapi, which is a weird zebra giraffe looking thing in Africa, that's
Mm-hmm.
often held up as an example of a cryptid that turned out to be real, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there, in the years prior, and in other parts of the world, there were also okapi sightings. Like, for example, the okapi was reported somewhere in like West Central Africa. There were some alleged okapi sightings way outside its known range today in like Sudan, and there were even reports of the I think it's the Persepolis beast, which is a really old drawing in Persia, modern day Iran, that is said to show the okapi. So it might have been even more widespread than we know it today, way back in ancient times, which I thought was cool.
Hmm.
Wow.
How do you spell Persepolis? Like Persepolis?
Persepolis.
Okay, so like Persepolis, like the city, right?
Yeah, if you search that plus beast, I think the first thing that pops up is the cryptid
Hmm.
report on the cryptid archive page.
But this is like looks like sort of Egyptian or it's Persian art, I guess. And at that time, they were importing a lot of animals from sub-Saharan Africa. For example, they were importing giraffes, and they were even importing like basically these people knew about animals from all over the continent and elsewhere because they were doing expensive expeditions.
Yeah, I'm reading this again now. It looks like they said that at least people believe that it was being brought there from Ethiopia, which
Mm-hmm.
is still outside the range of the okapi. But I just think it's
Hmm.
interesting that like an animal could have been common knowledge of people and then somehow forgotten over the years to the point where it was only discovered in the 20th century or
Oh,
rediscovered in the
true.
20th century.
That is
Yeah.
interesting. That it was like it's forgotten lore.
It's sort of like how a lot of people mention how like maybe some animals have gone extinct that did live alongside humans, but just weren't really documented very well.
That's another interesting thing. I think I talked to you about reports of elephants in the United States, where
Yeah.
when people were coming over, they were talking to the natives, and a lot of different native groups had stories or reports of elephant-like animals. And there's two lines of thought. A lot of people have said, maybe these were reports of mammoths surviving into, the 1500s. But I also
Right.
thought maybe these were stories passed down from like 4,000 years ago when mammoths went extinct there. That just from year to year, people have passed down the stories of these giant beasts. So they're
That's what I
still with us
think.
in a way.
Because
Because,
like folklore and just myths are a really big part of society, and
yep.
were a bigger part before. So I feel like they would have passed that down.
Yeah, absolutely. With they didn't really have writing there, so it was mostly like art and oral storytelling that everything was passed down from. I think Australia has stories they've located thousands, if not tens of thousands of years back, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
super cool.
Yeah. Well, I guess we could maybe start to wrap it up there since we've gone over an hour. It was a lot of fun talking to you. To be
Thank
honest, we
you.
could probably keep going and going. I'd like to ask your opinion on almost any cryptid, but maybe we could have you on again at some point in the future if you're up for it.
Yeah, anytime.
Cool. So, where can people find you?
I'm on YouTube under Truth is Scarier Than Fiction, not Stranger. And then through there, you can find me on a lot of different websites: Twitter, Instagram, Patreon. I occasionally post to the Association of Cryptozoology Facebook page. And then I also post a lot on the Cryptozoology subreddit.
Yeah, you're a mod on the subreddit, aren't you?
Yep. I was up at 3 a.m. one night, and one of the other mods was like, "Hey, if you respond to this, I'll make you a mod." So I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. Thanks."
Wow, royalty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll have all the links below. Make sure to check out his videos, some of the best cryptid videos on YouTube, and follow him on Instagram, Twitter, Reddit. Your Twitter is you are very dedicated. Almost every day, I'm like go on Twitter. It's like, okay, weird random stuff, and then it's like you make all these really good posts about. I think you post about cryptids nearly every day, do you?
Yeah, pretty much. And might be like a couple times on the weekend I don't, but I try to make at least one post about a cryptid or a cryptid story or a different cryptozoologist there. And again, when it comes to, encyclopedic knowledge, as you say, just kind of having that where I research something new every day helps a lot. Come across cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when people look back at history, you're going to be one of the bigger names in cryptozoology.
I hope so. Oh, big project. I am trying to expand site and probably commission some artwork on cryptid lost media and evidence and put that into a book sometime in the future. That's the goal.
Nice. So you're going to be publishing a book then?
Hopefully. But that's going to be a bit down the ways.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you giving us your time. And yeah, I wish you all the best and look forward to your next video.
Thank you. You too.
Yes, thank you.
All right.